Okay, guys, hopefully day one of e-learning went pretty smoothly for you in all your classes. I didn't have very many messages from anybody really, so I hope that you understood the lesson yesterday. The quizzes grades looked pretty good. I'll get those in here soon. If you're still working on the quizzes from yesterday, then, keep doing that. All right, so we're going to continue on with section 6-5, solving radical equations. Remember from yesterday, we want to use our normal solving steps. And then the first thing that we have to do is get the radical portion by itself. Now on today's problems, these are going to be harder. They're not going to be quite as easy as yesterday's to work out because one of the portions that we're squaring turns into a bigger equation than just a number. And we have to recall back to when we learned how to factor using the ABC method. All right, for number one, so I have the square root of x plus 7 and then minus 5 on the outside equals x. So that's a little bit different because we didn't have an x on both sides of the equation yesterday. All right, so first I need to get the square root portion by itself. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides since that's on the outside. And when I do that, I just get x plus 5 over here. And then I bring down my square root of x plus 7. All right, now that the radical portion's by itself, I can square both sides, and this is where it's different from yesterday. All right, this side is the same. So remember, when you square a radical, you just get whatever's underneath of it. So the square root of x plus 7 squared just turns into x plus 7. This is what's different. Yesterday, we just had a number right here, and today we have an x plus 5, the whole thing squared. So this is where we're going to have to take two binomials. It's going to turn into two binomials, and when we multiply them together, we're going to get a trinomial out of it. So I did my little side work down here, x plus 5 times x plus 5. So it means I have two of them, okay? And remember the FOIL method, first, outside, inside, last, the distributive property, however you want to call it. So first you're going to take x times x, then you're going to take x times 5, and then you're going to take 5 times x, and then you're going to take 5 times 5. Okay, x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 5 times x is 5x, and then 5 times 5 is 25. And then I can put those two things together because those are like terms, and it turns into 10x. So when I multiply x plus 5 squared, it really turns into x squared plus 10x plus 25. So that's what I put right there. All right, now we need to get everything on one side. So I want all my terms on one side. I want to make one of the sides 0. So I'm going to choose to make this side over here 0 because it only has two terms. So I'm going to move both of these things over here. So first I'm going to move the x over. It's positive x, so I'm going to subtract x. And I can put it with the 10x because those are the same. So it's going to give me 9x when I subtract it. And then I bring down the other two terms. And then I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And I can put it with the number, the 25. And it turns into 18. All right, now I have 0 equals x squared plus 9x plus 18. So this is where we go back to what we were doing a lot in the third down weeks. And we want to factor using the ABC method. So remember, a is the number in front of x squared. So there's really an imaginary 1 right there. So a is 1. B is the number in front of x. So b is 9. And then c is just the number. So c is 18. All right, then you want to take a times c. So 1 times 18, which is 18. And you want to, I listed all the factors of 18 just so that we can remember how to do that. But you want to find the right combination that also adds up to give you the b term, which is 9. So to get positive 18, I can do 1 and 18, negative 1 and negative 18, 2 and 9, negative 2, negative 9, 3 and 6, negative 3, negative 6. Those are all my factors of positive 18. But the only factor that also adds up to give me positive 9 is 3 and 6. So that's why I have that one circled. Okay, then I'm going to bring the 3 and 6 over here. Remember, you just do x plus 3 and x plus 6 in parentheses. And then we actually have to solve this. So this is the solving problems. I don't just stop there. So I'm going to set both of these equal to 0. And then they're just really easy. Subtract 3 from both sides. I don't know why I wrote that in 2 different lines. But subtract 3, subtract 3. So this one, x equals negative 3. Subtract 6, x equals negative 6. All right, so I know that was a long problem and they're harder. I'm going to do one more. All right, so I have, for number 2, the square root of 3x plus 7 equals x minus 1. All right, on this one, the square root portion is already by itself, so I don't have to add or subtract anything or multiply or divide like I had to on number 1. So I can go straight to squaring both sides. So square, square. All right, so again, remember when you square a radical, you just get whatever's underneath the radical. So this just turns into 3x plus 7. And then I got to do the same thing with the x minus 1 squared. I'm over to the side. I'm going to write it as x minus 1 times x minus 1. And I got to do that FOIL method, the distributive property method, however you want to call it, okay? So I got to do x times x, and then x times negative 1, negative 1 times x, negative 1 times negative 1. X times x is x squared. That gives me negative 1x. That gives me negative 1x. And then that gives me positive 1. And then I can put these two together. And that gives me negative 2x. So when I take x minus 1 and I square it, it turns into x squared minus 2x plus 1. So that's what I wrote right there. All right, now again, I want to get one of my sides to equal 0. So I'm going to choose the left side again because it only has 2 terms. So I'm going to move both of these terms over here. So first I'm going to start with 3x, so I'm going to subtract it. All right, so negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x. Bring my other 2 terms down. Then I'm going to take that 7 and also subtract it. That's going to give me negative 6. So after I move my other 2 terms over, I end up with x squared minus 5x minus 0. And this is where we do the factoring method again. All right, so a is in front of x squared, which is 1. B is in front of x, which is negative 5. C is just the number, which is negative 7. I'm sorry, negative 6. And then I want to take a times c. So 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. All right, so I want to list all my factors of negative 6 and figure out which combo adds up to also give me the b term, which is negative 5. So to get negative 6, you can do 1, negative 6, negative 1, positive 6, 2, negative 3, negative 2, positive 3. But the only one that also adds up to give me negative 5 is the first one, 1 and negative 6. So that's the one I'm going to choose. Then I come over here and I put them in the parentheses. So x plus 1, x minus 6. And then I just make each one of them set equal to 0 and solve. So subtract 1 on both sides. One of my answers is negative 1. Add 6 to both sides. One of my answers is positive 6. Okay, since this was a little bit harder of a lesson, I'm not going to give an assignment today. Make sure you do check in on that other quizzes link though, because that's the check-in for the attendance purposes. And then I'll see you tomorrow.